Good morning. Thank you for joining us again. This is our first in the series titled Learning to Live in Recovery. As you see, this is a meeting style format instead of a webinar. So I'm going to ask that everybody please put yourselves on mute during this session. It'd be great if we could see your smiling faces too. We're going to have the presenters go through their presentations, and after, I'm going to, raise your hand. For those of you who don't know how to do that, it's at the bottom for reactions. If you raise your hand and have a question, please raise your hand and I will call on you after the presentations are done so that you can ask your questions. We're hoping that this is going to be a more informal discussion at the end. So again, thank you so much for joining us. This is being recorded, just so that you know that. And for now, I'm going to turn it over to our great leader and coach, Larry McHugh.
Well, thanks a lot for everyone being on today. And I really want to thank all of those speakers that are with us today on this very important topic. I want to thank Reverend Robin Ross, Julie Price, Harry Burr, our own Charles Mitchell, along with Harry, and Anna Coppola. I want to thank all of them for giving up their time for this, as you know, the Chamber and MCSAAC's very important workshop. So again, I want to thank everyone, and I really want to turn this over now to an individual that's done so much for us through MCSAAC. He's been a tremendous leader and a longtime supporter of mine all the way back into the 80s. I think that Tony doesn't realize how time goes so fast, but we were both a lot younger back then, but we're still moving forward. So Tony, thank you. I'd like to turn it over to you as the head of MCSAAC for remarks. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And unfortunately, Larry, I do realize how fast time goes by. And yeah, you're right. It goes all the way back to the 80s. And it's been a pleasure and a heck of a ride. I have to also echo Larry in thanking our panel. We have an excellent panel here this morning, and right in line with what MCSAAC is all about. Prevention, and we have a unique relationship with our chamber. And Larry, a lot of it in part as a result of a number of individuals. We're unique with regards to relationship with the Substance Abuse Action Council and the Middlesex Chamber. There's only, I believe, one or possibly two other chambers in the country that has such an arrangement, and we've been very fortunate and able to keep this going. And in large part right now, it's because of our staff liaison and the guy that I give a lot of credit for what's getting done right now when it comes to substance abuse and these types of programs, Charles Mitchell. So I personally want to thank Charles. I think he's doing an outstanding job. He speaks with authority. Unfortunately, he's been there, done it, and is proven that recovery works. And I can't say enough about Charles. I think he does an outstanding job, and was very pleased when the chamber brought him on. So again, thank you very much this morning. Our pleasure to again continue to host these types of workshops. And I'll turn it over to you, Charles. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Johanna. And this morning, and thank you to everyone who has signed on for this workshop. It's going to be an awesome workshop. We have great panelists today who are going to really give us the explanation on how it can be difficult at times to live in recovery, and learning to live in recovery is not something that you just learn overnight. It's something that we do over a number of years, which is accomplished only day by day. So I just want to thank everyone for being here. And I just pray that everyone gets, the information that they need today, and to understand, the battles that people in recovery face from SUDs. So at this point, and at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our first speaker, Reverend Robin Ross.
Thank you, Elder Charles. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for having me today and for giving me the opportunity to talk about living in recovery. As a topic, I chose persistence. For me, it was important for me to stand firm in what I wanted to accomplish, which was sobriety. I lived in a neighborhood on the north end of Middletown, Connecticut, where it was a lot of drug activity going on. I think it still is to this day, but Back when I had gotten clean, it was a lot of drug activity going on. It was like the main spot for getting your drugs. Kind of everything in that lifestyle focused around this area. And that's the area that I lived in. So the day that I decided that I needed to get some help and I went into a detox, I was only there for 3 to 5 days. I came home to a check in the mailbox, and it was time to decide whether I wanted to be clean or whether I wanted to go back down that spiral that I was on. And so I attribute all of my success to my Lord and Savior. And so I believe it was him who gave me the strength to push past what I needed to do in order to be successful on this journey. And so, as I was talking with Elder Charles in a conversation earlier, I told him I had to be persistent because not only did I live in that same neighborhood, I had to walk past those same drug dealers that I bought from, the same people that I got high with, and it seems like when you want to do something right, people are always trying to get you to go in the opposite direction. It's almost like they have this hidden, message that she's trying to get her life together. So let's try to pull her back into what we're doing. So persistence was really important for me. I had in that world, they offer what you call credit if you don't have money to buy it. So it was like I had all kinds of people coming up to me offering me to buy, get credit to get this stuff, whatever. So I had to stay and be persistent. I had to, the same way I ran after those drugs is the same way I had to run after my sobriety. I had to make commitments. I had to take on a commitment to hit meetings, as many meetings as I could back then. I wasn't working. So I made a commitment to walk to 3 to 4 meetings a day. And I made a commitment to walk by those dealers and not have conversation. If they said hello, I said hello and I kept walking. But I had to make up in my mind that is something that I wanted to accomplish. And I thank God, because most people in recovery back then, I don't know how it works now, but most people back then had to relocate to different towns to get clean, because they tell us in recovery to change people, places, and things. But not only was I delivered on that street on the north end, but I lived there for 12 years after. So I know that, my deliverance was real. And I just thank God for him giving me that spirit to be persistent, to keep on pressing, to keep on going. And to God be the glory. February 25th, I celebrated 25 years of sobriety. So persistence definitely works, and it worked for me. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Roz. That is an awesome story. And I appreciate, and again, those are the challenges that we face every day that most people don't get to, to live, because their eyes don't see what we see, their ears don't hear what we hear, and their minds don't know what we know. So thank you so much for that. And next, we're going to have Julie Price. Come on. Thank you.
Good morning. My name's Julie Price, and I'm an alcoholic and an addict. And I also am a mental health professional. So I want to talk today about treating mental health issues in recovery. And I'll be transparent about it regarding myself, but I also will talk about some of the resources and the things that can be helpful for you or other people to access that you know. So, it's not a secret. Many of us have heard the word dual diagnosis, or we have heard of, people in recovery struggling from the idea of self-medicating mental illness with drugs and alcohol, right? And so one of the things that we know is that they frequently do occur together. One of the things that I am familiar with is that trauma is a gateway drug. I was reading a statistic that came out of the World Health Organization yesterday. They measured girls 15 and older, and 1 in 3 had experienced sexual or physical abuse in their lifetime. The data that we collect on men is not as clear, but having talked to a lot of people in recovery over the past 2 decades that I've been sober, I found a lot of men also have been exposed to sexual abuse. Many of us come from families of intergenerational trauma, right? Where our parents did the best they could with what they had, and it was traumatic for us. The other thing, so that involves trauma. The other thing is there's organic mental illness that happens, like depression. Depression is a real thing. It's not just I'm feeling sad. It is a chemical thing in the brain. And we know that. We also, there's psychosis. I've met people who are struggling, worked with a lot of people who have schizophrenia, voice hearers, and those things are real. And a a lot of times people choose to use the drugs and the alcohol to medicate that. So what happens then when you get sober and you're fighting persistently, like Reverend Robin was talking about, to fight every day and make it, and it's very uncomfortable. For me, I can speak for myself. I believed that God and the 12 steps that I live by, those spiritual principles, I believe that those things would take away my depression, take away my illness, my depression, and make things okay, and my trauma. I have a history of trauma. And what ended up happening in the sober community that I was in at that point, there started to be this story going around of someone that was very respected and revered who had sobriety in the sober community I was in. And he didn't get help for his depression, anxiety, whatever he was experiencing. And so sober, with over a decade of sobriety, he blew his head off with a shotgun, right? And that became his intervention for mental health. I've met many people who have relapsed over that. So it's difficult once I accepted that I was an addict and alcoholic and I needed to do something. It was also very difficult to say, okay, now I have a mental illness and I have to treat that too. And I felt like a, double loser, if you will. And I needed to treat the mental health in the same way that I treated the drugs and alcohol. So there's skills, right? There's trauma things that we do as skills. I'm an EMDR clinician. That stands for eye movement reprocessing and desensitization and reprocessing, right? And so that works with both sides of the brain and processing trauma in a different way. Medication is helpful as a temporary solution. There are plenty of non-narcotic medications to help people get out of a rut. There's also therapy, tremendous help and benefit from talk therapy. One of the things I'll let you know when it comes to working in recovery and persisting, addiction and mental health issues are both included in the American Disabilities Act. And what that means is that if you're employed and you are having a struggle with trying to keep your mental health up or trying to even protect your program and work with it, you're protected with that as a disability. Particularly, a lot of people have the same job that they keep the same job and get sober. I've heard of that story. It wasn't my story. I was not employable at the end of my using. But if your employer knows that you're in recovery, if you've been transparent, if it's a safe place for you to do that, your job is protected. Your job is also protected if you choose to disclose that you need to go to treatment. It's like any other doctor's appointment that is available to you. I think what I would say is, having treated my mental health, I live a comfortable life today, and I live a life, I'm on very few medications. I'm on an antidepressant. I do go to therapy regularly. I've done EMDR. I help other people to do those things. I would much rather treat my mental health than relapse and go back where I came from, right? I have done a lot of the therapy because I do not want the intergenerational trauma, right? I'm often pretty open. I had invited my family. I don't know if anyone from my family in North Carolina is on, but my father was a spy and my mom had mental illness. And there was generational trauma in my house. And I did not want to continue that intergenerational trauma to my son, which meant I needed to get sober. And then I also needed to treat the mental health stuff. Because that gift was given to me and God helped me do it, I help do that for others. I think what I'll leave you with is this idea of, I used to think that God would take away my mental illness and help me with my trauma. And then I heard the story one day about the guy who was in a flood, and he was in a flood and he was praying to God for help. And the waters were coming up on his porch. And so all of the, neighbors came and they said, we're leaving town. We're going to leave town. Let's all leave together. And he said, no, I'm staying. God's going to save me. So the waters came up onto the front porch and started to come into the house. And he asked God for help. And one of his family members came by and said, hey, the flood's coming. I'm leaving town. I came from across town. Let's go together. I love you. And he said, no, I'm going to stay here. God's going to save me. And the waters came up into the house. And so the fire department came by and they were in boats and they said, we're leaving. We want to help you. We got to go. And he said, no, God's going to save me. And he got up on the roof and the waters kept rising. And they sent a helicopter for the last people. And they said, hey, we've got the helicopter. We're going out. We want to go. And he said, no, I'm staying here. God's going to save me. And he drowned. And he got to heaven and he said, God, I believed in you. I had faith in you. And you were going to come and save me. And you didn't come. And God said, I sent the neighbors. I sent your family. I sent the fire department. And I sent the helicopter. And you didn't accept any of the help. And that's the analogy that I like to think of when it comes to treating mental health. God will move mountains for me, but he asked me to bring a shovel. And when I ask for help and I've opened myself up, it doesn't have to be medication, but just for treatment and it's part of holistically taking care of my whole body, which makes it easier for me to process, like Reverend Robin was talking about, and stay sober over a long period of time. It's been 21 years, September 15th, that I've been sober, and my life just keeps getting better. So thank you for letting me speak about that today.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Julia. What an awesome, testimony and a story that she has just, I pray that everyone is just hearing that it's not just that simple to live in recovery. It's not just something we wake up and we can do without the help of others, without the help of God, and without the encouragement of ourselves. Sometimes we have to encourage ourselves to get motivated, to get moving. So I just pray that everybody is getting what they need out of this, the information they need. If they know someone who is struggling in recovery, and not be so hard on them, if they falter or if they make a mistake along the way. And up next, we have Mr. Harry E Burr.
Good morning. I'm Harry Burr. I'm a recovering alcoholic. I have 30 plus years of sobriety, and thank God. And I'll mention AA as an important part of my recovery. I was at an AA meeting years ago at a church down county. It was along the river. And I liked this meeting on a Friday night. I wouldn't go every Friday night because I moved around a little bit. But there was Harold. We called him Old Harold. And he would say, and it was very humorous to me at the time, and he would say, Harry, don't run with the turkeys, soar with the eagles. And that's part of recovery. People, places, and things. Now, in my situation, it was pretty difficult, but let me back up for 1 minute. I had 6 years of sobriety, and I had a slip, and that was gone. And I basically set myself up on that slip. My family was away down south, and I was working on my boat down in Old Saybrook, and I suddenly had a compulsion to drink, and I wanted a wine spritzer. Never even had a wine spritzer in all my life. And there was a bar just about a 3-minute walk right on the Connecticut River down the street. So I walked in there and I said, I'd like to have a wine spritzer. And that set me off again on a binge by binge run until I found recovery again. But people, places, and things, when I say I had an unusual set of circumstances, I joined my family business in 1968. And part of doing business back then, which was a very, very big part, was socializing with your clients, lunches, dinners, conventions, and those companies that we brokered through, they wanted your business. So constant socializing, but in a business way. And so I was introduced to alcohol, I'm going to say big time, because through college, I would like to party a bit. And I would say that was my my first social part of drinking. Then when I got into business, it became more than social. It became habit. And then it became addiction. So social, habit, addiction. So when I say in a complicated way, how do I get around business with these clients constantly? Let's go here, we have a golf tournament, let's do this, let's do that. And it was all centered around alcohol. I can remember going to a golf tournament, the bar was open at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I had to be very honest with myself and very honest with the people I was surrounded with. And I would actually have to say this. Thank you for the invite, but I'm not drinking anymore and I'm trying to stay sober. And if they didn't understand that, too bad for them. I was on a rocky road to self-destruction, big time. And I ended up, after my first bout of sobriety, and let me just mention one thing. My first 6 years, I was full of the Lord. I had the Christian part down. I had my Christianity. I would attend church every morning at 7:30. So I thought that's all I needed. What I was missing was the self-help groups like AA. So you need those two, in my opinion, to succeed with recovery. And then I was institutionalized for a period of 28 days on my second go around. And my 4 children came to visit me. My oldest son was at Bentley, right outside of Boston, and he picked up my son Colin, my daughter Megan and Matt, and they came to visit me. And it was at the Institute of Living. And they parked, I told them where to park, and they parked exactly where I didn't want them to park. So I'm pacing the second floor, and I'm watching from a distance my 4 children walk across the park-like setting. And I said to myself, I'm such a lucky man to have these beautiful children. And they're so close to me today. So we had a very, very nice visit. And the next morning that I woke up, I lost the compulsion to drink. It was a miracle. It was God's will. I have not had a compulsion to drink in over 30 years. Now, did that stop me from going to AA and sponsoring, mentoring, speaking? No, because I didn't trust it. I said, how could this possibly be? This when I had the compulsion to drink, it was so strong in the past, and now I don't have it anymore. So I just jumped into AA. I didn't rid myself of all my friends, but I had to stay a distance. I couldn't go back where I came from. If I went back where I came from, I was a dead man. I was convinced that I picked up another drink, I was going to die. And I have that's my feeling today. If I pick up a drink, I'm going to die. So I had to change people, places. I'm not going to meet you guys at 5 o'clock down at the local gin mill where we used to hang out. And again, they were clients. Clients become friends. Drunks attract drunks. So sorry, I can't make it. And so I changed people because I got very friendly with the AA, and I bounced around the meetings and got to know everybody. I changed places, and I changed my way of life. I changed things. And that is all part of my recovery. But if you don't do it, in my opinion, you're in deep trouble. You've got to follow the guidelines. So thank you.
Thank you, Harry. And that was awesome. And, you know, I agree with Harry about changing the people, the places, and the things. And in my own recovery, that is something I never did. You know, I spent 30 years of my life on drugs and alcohol. And I spent 20 years of those 30 going in and out of prison. But each time I went into prison, you know, I always went back to my same neighborhood. I always went back to hanging around the same people, which in turn took my focus off of me trying to stay clean. And I'm not blaming my life on where I lived, where I grew up, because there's many people that have lived where I lived and grew up where I grew up that have went on to be successful in their own life. So I'm not gonna say that I was a product of my environment, but I was in the environment nonetheless. And because of the environment, I chose to do what the majority of the environment was doing. See, where I grew up, the majority were drug dealers and drug users. The minority was those who weren't using and who were attempting to live their own lives. I grew up in Bridgeport in a place called Father Panic Village. And I've seen many people. I've been shot before. I've been stabbed before. I've witnessed murders right in front of me. And I've seen all of these things in my life, you know, and yet even getting out of prison, it's where I went back to. And my last arrest was in 2006. And I was living in Norwich, Connecticut. And I can remember saying, you know what, I can't live this way anymore. I just can't do this anymore because my life is like, there's nothing to me. There's nothing to my life. And a couple of weeks before that, I had went to my spiritual mother and I asked her, I said, listen, I need you to pray for me. And she said to me, well, what do you want me to pray for, Charles? You know, we've prayed a lot of prayers. And I said, listen, I want you to pray that I go to prison. And she looked at me and she said, are you serious? I said, yeah. I said, because that's the only place that I'm going to sit still long enough for God to get a hold of me. And I need that. I need to be grabbed hold of. And on that day, I'll never forget it, 2006, July 3rd at 3:45 p.m. I'll never forget that day because that's the day I decided to get clean. That's the day I decided I wanted my life to be turned around. And I fell on my knees. And I, like Reverend Robin, like Julie, like Harry, I gave my life to Jesus Christ as well. And I asked him to help me turn my life around. And since that day, he has put me in front of so many people who could help me learn how to live in recovery. Because when I got clean, I didn't know how to live in recovery. I wasn't given a handbook on how to live in recovery. You know, and when I got released from prison, I was sent to a halfway house here in Middletown. And this halfway house was located right smack dab in the middle of a drug area. And okay, so now I'm in this drug area. I want to live my life for God. I want to live my life right. So I got to stay focused on what I'm doing. I have to stay focused on where I want to go. And like Reverend Robin, I had to walk through the drug area in order to get to where I needed to go. And I just needed that strength. And I would always ask God to give me the strength to walk through it and not stop. You know, and because see, the thing about I'll say, for me, my eyes have seen drug areas. My eyes have seen drug dealers. My eyes have seen drug users. So I know exactly what it looks like when I see it. I can see it and pick it up at a glance because I've lived it for so many years. It doesn't just go away. So I had to stay focused. And I can remember being on parole and going to the meetings and going to church on Sundays and just staying focused on what I needed to do for me. Because most of the times that I tried to get clean, it was never for me. It was always for my mother. It was always for my kids. It was always for my girlfriend, and because I was doing it for them, I never measured up to their expectations. And the minute that I didn't meet one of their expectations, that wasn't my reason to use, that was my excuse to use. See, so when I started getting clean for myself, I had to stay focused on myself. I had to not allow other people to be the reason why I went back out. Oftentimes, that's what it was before. And I would have people say to me, you think you're better than me now that you're not using drugs because you don't come around us anymore. You don't talk to us anymore. And it wasn't that I thought I was better. I was being safe. I needed to be safe. I needed to be secure. I needed to know that I was able to move about without having to look over my shoulder anymore. And I had to stay focused on my Bible studies, on the meetings that I was going to, the things that people were saying to me, the things that people were talking to me about. Because again, I wasn't given a blueprint on how to live in recovery. I faced obstacles every day. The obstacle I faced when I got sober was my mother was dying. My mother was on her deathbed. And I had to make the decision whether to pull the plug on her or not. Here I am trying to get sober, and I'm faced with a real life situation. And I thank God that I was clean and sober at the time that I was able to make that decision. Because if I would have been using, not only would I not have been able to make the decision, I probably wouldn't have even been there. Because when drugs is your priority, nobody else is. And I thank God that I was there, and then I had to face the fact that I developed lung cancer, being sober. These are all the things that I would normally run from, all the challenges that I would normally run from when I found out. But because I was focused on my recovery, focused on what I was doing and how I wanted to change my life, I had to make these life-altering decisions. And thank God I was sober when I made them. And I will never be able to say, I did this by myself. Never. If it was not for my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and my wife, who has been very supportive in these last 16 years that I've been clean. My wife never met me when I was using. I didn't know my wife until I came to Middletown. We've been married going on 11 years now, and she's been nothing but supportive through the decision of pulling the plug on my mother, through the decision of having my entire left lung removed because of cancer, and all the other struggles that I faced on an everyday life, because life is a struggle. Life is a struggle, and it depends on how you get through the struggles is dependent on how your life goes. And I could never, ever be so thankful for my church. I've been a member of 3 different churches since I've been in Middletown, and not because the churches were bad, but because in my growth, things have changed. My life have changed. So now I go to Victory Church, and that church has been nothing but supportive of me. They help me to carry out all the plans that God has had for my life. And I can't thank my pastors enough. I can't thank Mel enough, who is on right now looking. Her and I work together. We talk about life in general. And I could never thank the Middlesex Chamber enough for the job that they have given me today, which also helps me stay focused on my recovery, because what I do for my job is I work with people today who are in recovery, and I do something for them that, you know, that I needed help doing for myself. And that is to help find employment, which is a very key instrument into someone staying clean and sober in their lives. It is a confidence builder. And my boss that I had when I worked for St. Vincent de Paul in Middletown here at the Amazing Grace Food Pantry, Kathleen Kelly, I could never thank her enough. When she hired me at the food pantry, I didn't know anything about working at a food pantry, but because she taught me how to deal with, you know, it was another training aspect that God used. She taught me how to deal with people on an everyday life and let me know that people are people, regardless of their walk in life, regardless of where they are in their lives. And because of that, my compassion to help people is through the roof. I love doing what I do today. I love helping people in recovery. I love helping people generally. It does not matter to me. And that is my focus today, which helps me to stay in recovery. Because how can I help you if I am not helping myself? How can I be of any benefit to you if I am not a benefit to my family? You know, and this is the reason why I love doing what I'm doing. These workshops that we're putting together, they are important to me. They are important to every panelist that is on here this morning. And if you are tuned in this morning, it is important to you. And that's the reason why you're here. You know, and my focus is to ensure that we live in a safe, drug-free community, city, state, world. And I know that's going to take a lot to bring forth, but listen, we are all on the front lines here. And as long as we stay focused, we will do what we need to do. And I'll just leave you with this. This is a series of workshops that we're doing. And we're going to be doing the next workshop in July, on July 14th. And then we're going to follow up on September 8th. And we're going to close out the year on December 8th. And I hope and pray that you all sign in for these workshops, because this is just a taste of what's to come. And we are going to just have a glorious time in doing this. And on that note, I'll turn it over to my good friend, Anagopian.
Wonderful. Oh my goodness. I'm so grateful to be with you all. And I'm exceptionally pleased with the diversity in this group and our stories that make us actually more same than different in a lot of cases. Everyone knows someone. So thankful for the opportunity to be one of the presenters and wrapping up this event, one of many. I'm grateful that it also turned into a series, because there's a way that we can touch each other in a matter of connection, and communicating the options is really something that is important to me, and to continue looking towards advocacy and language and exposing the connections in the longevity related to the disease of addiction. And I think it was Julie that expressed, you know, sometimes, a very high percentage of the times, there's a mental health condition or a trauma associated. Now, the trauma could be the reason why you use, the mental health could be self-medication, and it gets all tangled up. And then trauma could be before, or because of needing in the ways and means of getting more. It could be, happen in that process as well. So when we were talking about what each person was going to share on, I got like an overview of Easy Does It, and kind of like these incremental statements came up. And then also with resources and links. So when I hear Easy Does It, I also go into this like little, you know, barrage of other things, one day at a time. Just for today, we have different increments of celebration with each other, right? It's really a beautiful thing. And when I see the increments of celebration, I take it as a forward movement into how we slowly progress, how we continue to learn, how we become more engaged and connected. So I did put in the chat box the website to Tricircle Incorporated. I am the founder executive director of that organization, and we have a very, very robust links and resources page. And that is for not just individuals like myself that has lived in recovery. July 13th, 1995 is when I found recovery in my path. And I say that so grateful to have found what worked for me, right? Because everybody's going to need to find what works for them. And on that particular page of links and resources for folks like me are looking to find a path or curious about the disease of addiction, for people with substance use disorders, there are at least 20 different options to take into consideration, and know that you have the ability to really eclectically go forward, right? I love trying different things. That just connects me to more people. So I think that's pretty awesome as well. And I always want to make sure I continue conversating about the system and systemic need for wellness. So I heard it in pretty much all stories, how our families are in relationship with us. And if we had the disease of addiction in our lives, that it affected everyone around us. So I look to the families in a position where they too have the ability to recover. And sometimes they even recover prior to us, because, you know, self-care is so, so important. I will include also all the people that have died because of the disease of addiction and the families that have been left behind. I believe that they have just as much value to the story and the energy that they were part of in trying to find resources. So we're able to raise up, in a matter of speaking, their loved ones that are gone, talk about them, and then take their lived experiences and build them into the solutions. July 13th, 1995, I did find recovery. And, you know, I grew up, my family had a very reputable restaurant in the day, Yankee Silversmith, and alcohol was paired with the right meal, with the right holiday, with the right time of day. It was paired with everything. And alcohol might not have been my drug of use, but I did land up drunk a lot. Substances changed as I changed, and they were as eclectic as I was when it came to the company that I kept too. I know for me, I had to learn, and that took time. So I'm grateful to have the different options and experiences that I've had in my own recovery. When it comes to reflecting back to Easy Does It, I want to take a moment to look at how it was important to learn how to respond versus react. You know, when we got to like slow our roll because we're just so fired up in a matter of impulsivity. I always want people to like me. That was just, I wanted to fit in somewhere, and I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. So I was always trying to be liked, or, you know, I was the comedian, or as a tough guy, I was what I needed to be, right? So I know I want you to like me. The beauty that's come over time is that I no longer need you to like me to be okay with who I am. And that took a lot of work, because in increments, small moments of time, I want to learn to make better, safer, and more informed decisions. I don't want to hurt the people I love. That's what I used to do, right? They were the most unconditional. And as my story goes on, I look at the stigma and isolation that surrounds the disease of addiction, and I think that's just as detrimental as the disease itself. So the opposite of the disease of addiction would be connection. So looking at the disease as an entity and a living thing, I look at it having the power and the shame and the guilt and the tools and the resources it needs to stay alive. How many folks have talked about being in an environment, people, places, and things, walking by things? All of your senses are engaged with the ways and means to get more, right? A lot of breaking down and disbanding, like the neurobiology of your brain, is got a lot to do with just waking up in the morning and what you had to do. You know, so there's a lot of things that had to change, and I'm grateful to be aware of that. I too had spent 10 days locked in psych, and I'll say that I celebrated my 20-year anniversary in those circumstances. My 20-year anniversary in recovery, I was in a position, my mental health was never addressed. I looked at it as another reflection of failure. I didn't understand that it was still another piece of who I was. But diagnosed with the disease of addiction, major depression, anxiety, PTSD, trauma, you could pick an acronym or whatever you want. Those are the things that I have. It's not who I am. And I knew I needed help. And it's some of the most courageous stuff that we can do is to ask for it. So I reached to people that were safe to me, and I got the help, but I was in a position to hold the secret long enough that I was going to hurt myself and take myself out. So because I exposed what I did, how I did, and when I did, I was able to go and be treated, in a matter of speaking. I went into that facility good, and I came out great. I know that this is a lot older. You know, when I look at the systems that need to be changed, I'm an advocate, right? And they say great advocates are just really angry people. So I'm a really great advocate. And that's because I've learned to flip the realities and became part of the solution. I call it the art of flipping. So when I look at the disease of addiction, I think the best way to get back at, in a matter, not that I like the whole retaliation, but living well is one of the best ways to like kind of stand proud. You know, like clean yourself off and lift yourself up. And I have the disease of addiction and a whole bunch of other stuff. It doesn't, but it's not who I am. And as I go forward, I want to take advantage of the life that I've been given, the second life in one lifetime. And, you know, I heard a lot of stuff in regards to the God of your understanding, or a power greater than yourself, a higher power. There's a lot of different ways to identify your source that really guides you, supports you, lifts you up. And it's really important that people also know that there are choices and there are decisions you can make to identify for yourself what works for you. And through the different path that I've been able, you know, to share and with folks, I understand that I can walk into a room. I came into this group with you all today, and I'm leaving different. It can be the people and the company that you keep is a power greater than yourself if you don't understand the language that people have used so far today. It doesn't make anybody bad. It just makes us stronger together. So I always like talking about that, and I will wrap it up by saying the most incredible tools that we have to share and move forward with are invisible. They are the principles of a whole person. The drugs weren't the problem. They were the solution to an older problem. There was a story before the story. And I always say, I might not talk about God because everybody has their own belief system and I don't want to impose mine. But if you didn't hear God, you weren't listening. I am so grateful to be part of this. And I look forward to the other events that are coming, and questions and answers and all that great stuff. So thanks so much. Thanks to the Chamber and all those involved in making this possible.
This is Larry McHugh. I'm going to just jump in for a second, and I know there'll be some Q&As, but I just want to publicly thank Robin, Julie, Harry, Charles, and Anna for their sincere remarks to this great turnout here today that we have for this very, very important workshop. And for each and every one of them to step up and to give their story and how they've overcome that. Although every day they have to overcome it again. It's not something that you learn once and you can put to the back. I just want to say how proud I am that you joined us here today with the Chamber. and so proud of what your success has been so far and the message that you're getting out to people. It means so much. So I have to get on to a Zoom with the mayor now, but I just wanted to say that you all very much impressed me. And I'll turn this back now to Charles.
Thanks, Larry.
All right, thank you. And I too also appreciate it so very much. And I like Anna, I'm gonna leave this webinar today with such a different outlook on life, being a different person, having been touched by every single person. And before we get to the Q&As, I want to give it to Anthony, and then Anthony can give it to Johanna.
Thanks, Charles. I just want to say, I also agree. It was a terrific workshop, and the messages really hit home. And I'm very pleased that we were able to put this on and continue to do so. And again, thank you very much, Charles. You did an outstanding job. And Harry, as always, appreciate everything that you have to say. It's been a real pleasure knowing you for almost 50 years now. So again, thank you very much, Harry.
Thanks for giving away my age.
I'm sorry. You gave that away when you talked about 68. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the fact that you tuned in.
Thank you.
And I too want to echo everyone's comments. Thank you so much for sharing not only your amazing stories of courage and your strength along your path to recovery, but these kind of sessions are so important because just something somebody says could just trigger somebody else to just be the strength that someone else needs, or the courage that someone else needs, or the courage to move forward. So I can't thank the panelists enough. Now we're getting over to the question and answer. So as I said in the beginning, this is a very different type of workshop. We're doing much more of a meeting style format. So if anyone has a question, we would love to hear from you directly. You can use the reaction button, which is located at the bottom of your screen. You can just click on that and you can raise your hand and I will call on you for those questions. So let's go. There's been quite a few people commenting in the chat saying amazing testimonies. Wow, yes. Thank you for sharing your amazing story. So I think you touched a lot of hearts today. All right, let's see. Anyone raising their hands? We have one. Sylvia, I'm going to ask you to unmute, okay?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting us to this conversation this morning. And I just want to echo everyone who shared their testimony that you are brave and just amazing. My question is, I work with a group of people who I facilitate a group who struggle with, not struggling, who are in their journey of recovery with alcohol, mental health, and substance abuse. One of the things that we're going to talk about this week is health and how, being in, recovery, or someone who's currently using, how that impacts someone's decision to be vaccinated. Because, when in this journey, it comes with people feeling unworthy and struggling with their identity. Have you all been involved with individuals or organizations who really focuses on people in recovery and how, and the vaccine and how that impacts this population? Can
I answer that?
Sure.
Yeah. One of the things I always say is that, when I was using, my health was not important. I did not think about my health. I didn't think about, if I had doctor's appointments, I didn't have time to go to the doctors and things like that because I was too busy using. But since I've been sober, since I've gotten my life back together, my health has become very important to me, because again, just like Anna said earlier, and I think we all said it, when we are in addiction, it affects our entire family. It affects everybody that we know. And it's the same way in recovery, and when it comes to making a decision about my health, I have to think about my wife. I have to think about my grandchildren. I have to think about my children. And I have to think about all the people that care about me, and even like making the decision to have the lung surgery that I have for cancer. I could have opted not to have the surgery, but the better option was to have the surgery. And after discussing it with my wife and, family members, it was the best decision to make. And even with the vaccine, I'm one of the ones who are, susceptible to catching it because I only have one lung, and it's been 9 years now since I've had the cancer. I've been cancer-free for 9 years, but I'm taking the vaccine shot because if it's going to help me to be better and give my wife some peace, knowing that I've been vaccinated and been taken care of and my family's okay, then we need to start making better choices when we're clean, when we're sober, because we don't make those choices when we're active.
I think I'd like to speak to that for a second too. I think as a clinician, one of the things that's helpful is, and I know Charles spoke earlier about getting sober for yourself, right? A lot of times people begin their recovery for someone else, to save a wife, to save a job, to get their kids back. And over time it becomes for them. I think this is a great framework to present the vaccine in the sense of, this is a great way to show your family that you're interested in their health and the health of the community. If you don't feel like you're worth it, what about your grandma? Sorry, that's my phone here. What about your grandmother? You want to be around your grandmother. This is the beginning of a way for you to turn around and show that you're interested in putting the welfare of others in your family or your community first. And sometimes that's a great opportunity if people don't feel like they're worth it yet. Feeling like you're making a positive choice for other people is a great way to kind of frame it, to allow people to kind of begin to have a sense, because in the beginning, when you come in, you've created so much damage and destruction, trying to find a way to have a little bit of self-esteem. And so if it can be framed as, this is one chance for you to have one small piece of self-esteem for doing something positive, I think it makes it a lot easier for people to accept it. And then it can start to grow as something that then after it happens, right? Look, doesn't that feel good to have done something for yourself, to know you're worth taking care of yourself and that kind of thing after the fact. But the framing it for others can get the motivation going, if that's helpful.
I'm going to just add one little thing. I'm just so grateful even for this response because it's so up in our face these days. If the opportunity presents to ask the question why, and then when the answer is revealed to ask the question why, and if you're able to actually get that person and those people to respond to like 3 or 5 times to the why, you'll probably get to the root of their concern, or more possibly at least expand on the conversation and it will reveal itself. So I always thought that's pretty cool. It's like, come on now, stop asking because you're getting closer. It's vulnerable, right? So I think it's a great question. Good luck with your group.
Thank you so much. This has been helpful. Thank you.
Great responses, everybody. Okay, Robin, you're next.
Good morning, everyone. Certainly thank each and every one of the panelists. I thought that they were excellent, and I love the way it started with persistence. And I think that that was a good way to, actually, get the panel going, and each and every one of you for sharing your story and also sharing your strength and your hope. One of the things that I thought, that I would like to kind of hear also, because it seems like all of you also are giving back now to the, community and also, really in the place where you are there for others and can help others. And so I just wanted to hear, I guess, from you, to tell some of those things and how did you get to that place in which you started giving back? Because I think that that's important also, that we also give back.
I'd
I
like
can
to
start
answer
with
that.
that one. For
Nope.
me, I actually got involved with the Ministerial Health Fellowship, which is under the direction of Reverend Robin Anderson, who just spoke. Her and I had been friends for years, and she always knew that it was a passion of mine to give back. And so she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have this position. Are you interested?" And actually, at the time, although it was a passion, I was thinking more, I have to take care of my family. I'm working a full-time job, and the hours that she was offering me was kind of part-time, but I was struggling with it because it was my passion. It was something I always wanted to do. I just never knew how to get out there and do it. And so the more I thought about it, the more I waited out, and I decided, hey, this is something that's my passion, and there is a scripture in the Bible says your gift will make room for you and put you in front of great men. So I said, you know what, this might be the opportunity that God is using for me to get myself out there. And it ended up working out so well. Like even before I started the position, she came to me and the hours had changed, the rate of pay. I've never been in a position where I was blessed before I even started the position. And so I thank God for her, and I thank God for all the ways she's introduced me to so many different community leaders and agencies. And I'm a very, very shy person. It's very tough for me. I think that's probably why I went through my presentation so quick, because my mind is just thinking, hurry up and talk and shut up, because I'm so shy. But I felt bad when I was like, I never even mentioned Reverend Robin or the agency that I work for, which is called How Can We Help Fellowship. I am a recovery coach, and I do work with that population. And I love what I do. I would do it for free. I love what I do. Like I'm so glad she reached out to me, and I'm so glad that I am where I am now and working with that community.
Harry,
and there's a
did
lot
you
of
wanna go
my
next?
cohorts are online as well. There's like 9, I think I counted, that are on this conversation as well. So I thank you guys too.
Harry?
I learned early on, and the few years I had with my father, who passed away at a young age, one of the first words out of his mouth, he said, if you're going to work for me, you've got to get involved in the community. And that I did. Even through my drinking years, I was involved in the community. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And I've run 3 United Way campaigns, ran a campaign for the Rushford Center. I've just done about everything that I possibly can to give back to the community. Because when I was down and out, and I can give you a very good example, I was chairman of the board in 1990 of the Middlesex County Chamber of Commerce. And that was not a very good year for Harry, because the entire real estate market collapsed. And it was just, devastating. Not only financially, but mentally very, very devastating. Family business, and holy mackerel, it's going to get out of the chute. But what I found out, our offices were on Main Street then, and I'd get visits from back then Buddy Webster, Ernie Peterson. They'd all stop in. Don't worry about it, Harry. You're going to make it. We're behind you. We're behind you. We're behind you. So for all that I give back to the community, I get back tenfold. And I take great pride, great pleasure. I'm doing a project now for Mark Community Resources as a consultant. I'm just never going to stop giving back. I told Mark, I said, this is my last one. And but I know it won't be. And it really helps me out with my sobriety, because the joy I get out of it, and also giving back to the community. There's no thought of alcoholism or picking up a drink. It's only positive, positive, positive. That's why you have to live in your community in a positive way. And that's what I've done for, well, the last 30 plus years. And prior to that, maybe not so good prior to that, but I did it. Thank you.
Yeah, and for me, I don't think it's so much as to what I do, as to it is who I am, and because I can remember as a young man watching my mother, who always gave to the community, who always was My mother was one of those type of women, and we lived in a project, and that's where everybody called mom. My mother was that mom for everybody. And I always watched her give to people, be nice to people, be kind to people. And that's what she instilled in me as a child. But in my using, in my addiction, all of that got buried underneath all of that. So once I got clean and once I got, sober and started living for the Lord, I realized it's not what I do, it's who I am. It's who God created me to be from the very time I was born. That's what I do. It's what I love to do. I get so much joy out of helping someone, get their lives back on track. When I can say something to someone and I see the light come on in their eyes, that lights me up like a candle. There's fireworks that go off inside of me that sometimes I can't even contain. And not only that, but because I took so much. I took so much in my addiction. I caused so much pain, so much misery to a lot of people in my life. And if I could just bring that joy into somebody else's life, because a lot of the people that I cause pain, a lot of the people that I cause the suffering are not here today. But if I can bring that into someone else's life, the joy that giving back to them, it brings me to a sense of, I'm not going to say of accomplishment, but just being who I am, who God called me to be, and knowing that I may have made a difference in somebody's life. Just may.
I wanted to also share in regards to, it doesn't always have to be so huge, right? So giving back is in the tiniest of increments and can be a smile, different than something I might have done in the past. I recently started bringing a bag with me when I walk and I pick up garbage. There's other things that I do that I will never tell people I did, because some of those are increments of, silent amends in a matter of speaking. There's just so much more power to me in that. And it's hard to do because there's that ego component of us, or that deeper rooted need for acceptance and approval. So coming to this group and making myself available here, connecting other people that I'm aware of and know and appreciate, and inviting them into different things like that, creating platforms and giving back and educating people. I remember I'm sorry I was so sorry all the time, but I never changed a damn thing. I was so sorry all the time. Now I don't say I'm sorry. I live that almost apology by being a different person. I'm sorry is great if you follow it up with change. So I am sorry, and how I live my life is a reflection of that. And I just think it's so cool that we're all able to really kind of diversify that too. Is like, what do you do for you? I regularly participate in my recovery. I have served in different capacities. And then I've stepped aside and allowed other people to serve, which could be just as important, and supported them to learn the process as well. So I know that you guys can probably do it verbatim. Some of you will say, yeah, I don't give as much as I teach, right? In that regard, I think it's the fish. I can give someone a fish and they'll eat for a day, or I can teach them how to fish and they'll eat for a lifetime. So I think that in a level of community is a beautiful thing.
Johanna, I'd just like to mention one thing quickly. Idle time for recovering alcoholic is disaster. And think about an alcoholic sitting around the house, wheels turning, not doing anything positive. So you have to get out of that idleness, and move on with your life, do something positive. And that's why Charles has done such a good job with the REP program, pulling the recovering alcoholic or addict from the group home who's sitting idle into the community and getting them jobs. And he's been very successful with doing so. So idle time is no good, and we're addressing that all the time. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Again, very inspirational. You guys are all leaders of your own way. If there's any other questions, please raise your hand, but I just want to go through the chat. Reverend Ross, awesome job. Great presentation to all the panelists. It's a beautiful thing when you can meet people where they're at and watch them manifest into who they really are. And then some great advice here. I am working in central office today, so I'm unable to be verbal. Just wanted to say thanks to everyone for the candid transparency. Today, I'm here representing our pastoral care and counseling. One resource to make you aware of is our Celebrate Recovery program. It's the second oldest in Connecticut. You can call her at the office if you want more information that will allow her to refer you to others. They address addictions and the roots of addictions. If you want to check out the chat, her phone number is listed there. Again, we keep hearing great resources. Thank you, everybody. Any additional questions?
I have one.
Sure.
Hi, my name is Susan. Been trying to do the recovery thing. I've been smoking marijuana for 50 years. It was my crutch. I've been sober for 12 days now. I'd like to make a comment about idle time. It's kind of funny that you say that, because that's all we have right now is idle time. I've been in my house for a year now with my dog. COVID has caused us to be home. I fortunately was strong enough to say, I can't breathe anymore. I don't want to be forced or, be controlled anymore by any drugs. I've been dependent on them to keep myself alive all my life. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I've been strong so far for 12 days, but it's really hard. I don't have anybody to stand with me. My family has kind of disappeared from my life. So it's just me and my dog, and I'm very thankful and grateful for this group. If anybody has any ideas to help me through this time, I would love to hear it.
I can make one comment. The longer that you stay sober, believe me, your family will come back to you. Sobriety is a good thing. It will bring them back.
Yeah. And I'd just like to say to you, congratulations on your 12 days. Because let me tell you something, to a lot of people, 12 days might sound like a short time, but to someone in recovery, that's a very long time. Every single day is a very, very difficult day. There was times in my life when I couldn't make it 12 seconds without using. So 12 days, I congratulate you. And listen, my number at the chamber, you can always reach out to me and I will call you. I will give you a call if you need someone to talk to. You can always call me at the chamber, and I can also refer you to some resources to other people in whom you can reach out to. You don't have to do this alone. That's the one thing about recovery. It's the one thing about all of us that are on this panel today. You do not have to do that alone. We are here for you. I am here for you. And just call the chamber and I can get you to the right people you need to talk to. So again, congratulations, and just know that you are not alone in this.
I want to second that. Congratulations, Susie, on your 12 days. Even one day is just humongous, in this walk. One day is humongous. So I congratulate you on your 12 days. I am a recovery coach for an organization called How Can We Help? and we help participants who are on their journey and, in this walk. I put my number to you personally in the chat. I chatted you personally and gave you my number. You can call me at any time you want to talk. If you want to get together, I can come to your house. It doesn't matter, but definitely I second what Charles is saying. Definitely give me a call.
Thank you.
Susie, I just
I'm
want to
not
give you a lot of
sure
credit for speaking.
How do I see the chats to get numbers?
Susie,
Are you on your phone or
phone?
computer?
It pops
Susie,
up.
are you on your phone or computer?
I'm on a pad, computer.
I'll let someone speak about that who's been on a tablet with it. But Susie, I just want to say I really am impressed that you spoke up, because it's speaking out loud rather than sitting there doing it by yourself that allows us all to come in and support you. So thanks for jumping in to say something. So can anyone help Susie who's familiar with a tablet?
Yes, Susie, at the bottom or at the top, there should be like a little square that looks like a little message box, and it says chat. You should be able to click on that. And it should list that information if she direct messaged you.
Or 3 dots that might unfold for you.
Yeah, it depends on which, you know what, Susie, why don't we, if you don't mind staying on after, I can directly connect with you, and then we can figure out a way to get that information, and Charles can be in contact with you with all that. Would that work? If you could just stay on when we close, that would be fantastic.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and I think Anna wanted to say something.
Oh yeah, I am impressed and admire the courage that it takes to not just have your video on, but to speak up. It's really, it's a huge step forward. And I know that pain is something that motivates all of us at one point in time or another. But I believe in my journey, I'm learning the tools that it no longer has to be what I use to motivate myself going forward. Short-term situation, long-term outcome. So you're on the path, and you got a whole bunch of peeps on your side right now. So it's all good.
Thank you. I won't give up. I never have.
Because you're worth it. That's rocks. That's the ingredient right there. You have great value.
I had to become worth it for myself. I couldn't do it for my kids. I couldn't do it for anyone else. I'm actually looking at my dog right now. I want to live for her, and I want to live for me. And yeah, it's been rough. I quit smoking cigarettes 3 years ago. I quit drinking 4 years ago. I did all of that by myself. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because I used to walk around with it in my hand. I don't need that crutch anymore. I want to be free.
As they said, you're a survivor and very, very brave. And look at, I call these the squares, but everyone, you have a bunch of friends around these squares that are here to help you. So thank you so much for joining us today. That was the first step. So thank you. Okay, any other questions, everybody?
I just want to say, if I can do it, anybody can.
All right, Susie, if you don't mind staying on, just so we can connect after, so I can make sure to connect you with Charles. Again, on behalf of the chamber, I want to thank all the panelists and everybody around the squares for joining us for this very important session. Reminder, we will have a second session in this series on July 14th. So we will be sending out a flyer on that. You know, you guys have been very inspirational to me. I told Charles when we first hired him and he came in and we were interviewing, he walked out and I said, how can I be a better person like Charles? Like, he was so inspirational to me in that interview that he really opened my eyes to a different way of thinking and an appreciation for myself. And I think that I've learned a lot from Charles and working with him over the year and a half. And again, I appreciate all of your strength, everything that you've shared today. We look forward to seeing you all in July. Be safe, be well, and be healthy. And thank you again. And remember, turn your clocks back this weekend. Sunshine's going to be longer now. So that's something to smile about. All right, Susie, we'll talk when everyone gets off. Thank you, everybody.